Today you will read from a poem called Rain in Summer. First you'll read to understand what the poem is about. Then you'll read to analyze the figurative language. From Rain in Summer by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. In this story, we're going to have figurative language. Figurative language is language that is not literal or not the meaning in the context. It has another meaning. When we look at these words, we are going to be using our context clues that we've learned previously to find the meaning. We're going to look at the words before it and the words after it, and then try to find out which type of figurative language it is and what that figurative language means. We are looking at 3 types of figurative language today. Those are simile, comparing two things using like or as; metaphor, comparing two things without the use of like or as; and of course, personification, giving something human qualities that are not living. We're going to get started reading our passage. Please put your finger on the first word. From Rain in Summer. How beautiful is the rain, after the dust and heat, in the broad and fiery street, in the narrow lane. How beautiful is the rain! How it clatters along the roofs, like tramps of hoofs. How it gushes and struggles out from the throat of overwhelming spout. Across the window pane it pours, and swift and wide, with muddy tide. Like a river down the gutter roars, the rain welcomes rain. The sick man from his chamber looks at the twisted brooks. He can feel cool breathe of each little pool. His fevered brain grows calm again, and he breathes a blessing on the rain. We are going to reread the poem and underline any figurative language that the poet describes about the rain. From Rain in Summer. How beautiful is the rain, after the dust and heat, in the broad and fiery street, in the narrow lane. How beautiful is the rain, how it clatters along the roofs, like a tramp of hoofs. I'm going to underline that word because that there is our first line of figurative language. How it gushes and struggles out. This is talking how the rain comes down, and rain usually doesn't struggle out. So that's figurative language, and we're going to underline that together. From the throat of the overflowing spout. That too is figurative language. So together we're going to underline that line 9. Across the window pane it pours, and swift and wide, with muddy tide. Like a river down the gutter roars, the rain, the welcome rain. With your group now, I'd like you to turn to your group and find where the figurative language is in the 3rd stanza. Go. Okay, so hopefully you found this clue word, like. That is indicating a type of figurative language. It says, like the river down the gutter roars. So that is figurative language. We're going to underline it. And then it says, the rain, the welcome rain. That is also something we are going to underline. Last stanza. The sick man from his chamber looks at the twisted brooks. He can feel the cool breath of each little pool. His fevered brain grows calm again, and he breathes a blessing on the rain. There we have 2 lines that are figurative language. He can feel the cool breaths of each little pool. It's speaking about the rain as if the rain is a person, because it says he and it says a feeling. I'd like you now to turn to page 269 in your packet, and we are going to fill in the chart together. Page 269, the first question says, use the chart below to identify and explain poems' figurative language. The first one, what I read. How it clatters along the roofs like tramps of hoofs. That is a simile. We know it is a simile because it has the word like, and that is a clue word that tells us it is a simile. That simile is comparing the sound of rain to hoofs, and hoofs are things on the bottom of animals' feet. Next, what does that mean? I'd like you to turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor what it means when they are comparing the sound of rain to hoofs. Go. The literal meaning of that phrase would be, the rain is very loud, and when it falls on the road, you can hear it loudly, like you would hear hoofs of animals. So I'm going to type in this box, the rain is very loud. When it falls on the road. All right, now let's go to our next one. Our next figurative language is in stanza 3. It's in stanza 2. How it gushes and struggles out from the throat of an overwhelming spout. So I am going to type that here while you write it in your paper. How it gushes and struggles out from the throat of the overflowing spout. That is our next figurative phrase. I'd like you to look for things in that phrase that tells us what that is. Is that a metaphor? Is that a simile? Or is that personification? Go. Alright, I hope you guys decided that that was a metaphor. That is a metaphor because it is comparing a creature escaping another creature's throat to water. And water is not escaping a creature's throat. It's just coming down. So that right there is comparing water to a creature escaping another creature's throat. So what does that actually mean? Was the water a creature trying to get out of someone else's mouth? No, it wasn't. So what was the water trying to do? The water was just moving powerfully through the spout. It wasn't escaping or in someone else's mouth. The water was moving powerfully. And I said moving powerfully through the spout. Alright, our last figurative language is in the last stanza, stanza number 4. This is line 18 and line 20. It says, he can feel the cool breath of each little pool. So what type of figurative language is that? We have one simile, we have one metaphor, and lastly, this one is personification. It's saying that the pools of rainwater are breathing, and rainwater does not actually breathe. So what does that mean if they feel the cool in each little pool? So what is the rain actually doing? I'd like you to turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor what the rain is actually doing. Go. Okay. So I hope that you guys had something along the lines of rainwater is settling or settles in small, cool, calm pools like it does here after it rains. Next is number 2. Number 2 says, suppose you want to draw a picture to show the motion and energy of rain. First, talk about how the poet describes the rain. Then, draw a picture on a separate piece of paper. You will do that by yourself at a voice level 0. So draw a picture of the rain that the poet is showing you. What type of rain is this? Is it calm, quiet raindrops? Is it fast, rushing, heavy rain? For homework, you will do question number 3. Explain how figurative language shows a change in the rain. Use examples to support your response. Use a separate paper provided on page 272 to write your answer. And then you see that little hint box next to it. Hint. Use the phrase figurative language and the words metaphor, similar, and personification in your response. So that right there is 4 separate sentences that you need to have in your response on page 272. It should be in a paragraph form. And again, you're going to explain, which means tell me all about it, how figurative language shows a change in the rain over time. You could use words like first, next, then last, and describe things like metaphors, similes, and personification, like we've learned today. Thank you, guys. Don't forget your homework.